Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Power On Podcast Bebop, where Sushi and I are going to talk about Cowboy Bebop. Going to go through the episodes. No picking and choosing. We're just going to go from episode 1, 2, 3, and then kind of dabble in some of the little oddities here and there. But I'm one of your hosts, What a Guy with 553, Taylor, and all that sort of fun jazz. And we'll get into jazz at some point. And with me is Mr. Sushi B. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. Let's get right to it. I'm excited to look at some Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sidestep from what we're doing with Bond there.
Yep.
But now we've closed the book on that, and we open up another one, and that is good old Bebop. Did you have the same experience of catching it on like Adult Swim?
No, I did not actually.
You did not? Oh, okay. The first episode I watched was actually the last one. It's like the last one or something like that.
Okay.
I think it was either the last one or the second to last one. And then I watched the last one the following week because I would catch it just on Friday nights or something. Or Saturday nights. And I was like, oh, that stuff's really, really cool. Like, this is really enjoyable. I am one of those dorks that actually likes Gundam Wing. Like, I'm not a big anime fan, but there's some here and there. Like, I like Gundam Wing. Of course, there will always be soft heart spots and all that sort of fun jazz for Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Not so much GT. GT can go away, but that's okay. But I caught it on Adult Swim. How about yourself?
I couldn't tell you exactly how I came across Cowboy Bebop, but I think, my memory's a little foggy on it, but it's just kind of through rumblings. Or some people kind of talking about it here and there.
Mm.
And then I know for yourself, you'd kind of mentioned it some more, and I think I'd probably maybe seen a couple of segments or whatnot, and was familiar with the looks of the characters and so forth. But I couldn't give you an exact starting point as to when I had jumped in and started watching it. I would say at least 10 to 15 years ago, though. At some point, it just kind of came across and was like, oh, okay, maybe I will take a dive into this. Plus, I think it was appealing that it was not a continuous type show.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have to put a lot of investment, say as something like a comic book, right? Where it's like, oh, this is issue 966, and if you didn't read that one thing in issue 312, which is being referenced now in issue 900 and whatever, it's not that you're really missing out, but it's just you're missing out on just like those little things, just no different than if you play a video game, right? And there's long running connections going on, and so it's no different than that. But it was just very appealing that it was short. I could get through an episode or two every few days or a day, and then just kind of carry on. So but I don't know the exact starting point when I became interested in following through and watching all of the episodes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I vaguely remember my best friend in high school, Graham. He and I. We were talking about something. I remember him mentioning it to me, and I was like, "Yeah, catching like that." And it just always, it was always maddening to like catch like only like bits and pieces of it, and it would be so infrequent because I was only catching it like once a week. I think it may have had 2 episodes that it aired that I would be able to catch, but it might have just been the one at the time. But in one hand, I don't mind that, just because it allows that anticipation to build up and stuff, and then a lot of times it can peter out and stuff. That's the old school way of it. I mean, you still kind of get it nowadays with some releases and stuff, but nowadays it mostly is just, oh, here's a season dump, yeah, or at least here's 8 episodes, enjoy, kind of thing. And it's kind of nice to reflect back on those. Man, you just only get it once, and you just
content.
Mm-hmm. And this show really lends itself to that, which is a lot better than something like Gundam Wing. Or screaming for 35 minutes in Dragon Ball Z.
Well, was Gundam Wing, each episode was linked together? Like if you missed one, you were probably missing a bit of the story?
Yeah, it was it wasn't, from what I recall, it's not a very, or at least for a while there, it wasn't a very popular one in Japan of the Gundam series. And it's like very politically heavy to where it's not to say that the others aren't, but it really leans into that political melodrama. I just thought the mechs were cool. That's just cool.
I do remember I did have the Endless Waltz movie. I forget how I got my hands on that. But yeah, and like graphically, it was a really cool looking. But I didn't really have investment in the characters or anything, so I didn't really know.
Right.
But just was it 5 main characters, something like that? 5 main Gundams?
Yeah, there's like.
Just like the one that had like the giant scythe and. So
yeah,
they were really interesting designs.
Wu Fei, I think. I think it's like Wu Fei, Trella, Hiro.
I can't remember. The only
it's been forever.
I got really invested in and watched straight through because I had the entire set was from 003 Stardust Memories.
And that's only like 8 episodes, isn't it?
Longer than that. I can't remember exactly how many, but.
Is that the really depressing one where the dude like loses a leg and all that?
No, it doesn't go that depressing, but it's the conclusion is not necessarily. It's not bad, but it's a bit anticlimactic, I guess.
Okay.
It has characters that were, I guess, appeared in like 0080 and stuff, like War in the Pocket. And
maybe I'm thinking of
79.
I think maybe be thinking of 0080 or something. I thought one of those like numbered ones was like, oh wow,
was a shorter set. Maybe that one only had like X number of episodes, and this one was 12 to 15 or something like that. It was a little bit longer.
There's something to be said about that, especially what you mentioned with Bebop there, that being, it's it's quote unquote technically 26 episodes. There's a 27th in the sense of this weird mishmash blues things, which we'll get into at a certain point. And then there's also a movie that would eventually come out, and that's really just a chance to kind of strut their stuff and make an elongated episode, which, people can be a little wish-washy on. I think at the time a lot of people were kind of like, oh, this is really cool to see. And it helps fill out a world that's already really filled out, so it doesn't do anything that it's like, oh wow, don't go near that. So that's, I think, in a way, commendable.
Yeah, I think that tends to be the case with a lot of these franchises. Once a movie comes out, you're just basically making a longer episode for the most part.
Right. So, but we're gonna start off right from the beginning there. And the Asteroid Blues. Unless there's something else you want to cover before we dive into it.
No, I think it's time to jump right into the episode.
Okay. And for a very long time, I hated this episode.
Oh, really?
Not like, yeah, because there was just, because it does a great job of what it's supposed to do, but then it's just such a stark difference from what you see in later episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reinforces the idea of what Spike will eventually do in the last episode, in a way, at least to me. Mm-hmm. It could be just me just rationalizing it out. That there is just a what's that Verschmitz, the what's the word for like world weariness?
Oh, you got me.
There's just this world weariness that it's just like, man, we're here, but it's not very heroic.
Yeah. Like a Western.
Like a Western, yes. It's a space Western. One of those you kind of chew on to some degree and not really.
There are no real heroes in those westerns.
Oh boy.
There's
Right.
only villains.
Well, yeah, and it's it opens up with just that, I don't know, just it burns slow, even though it's what, a 24-minute-ish, but yeah, it feels longer for some reason to me, and I don't know why. I don't know if I've come around to the episode after a while, but there was a long time where I was just like, I really don't like this. Like, just get me, just push it a little bit ahead. But in the same hand, now it's a great setup to show what kind of mud Jet and Spike are kind of stuck in. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure where to take it from there, because I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrums. I think this is a very important world-building episode, and I maybe because I didn't watch it from the back end as you did, right? So the first step into the world of this franchise was this episode for me. So I think it was kind of the perfect way of introducing what the parameters are that these characters are going to live in, and still give the opportunity to explore further things along the line. And even though this episode, I could see people, I hate using that term, but oh, this is the vanilla, right? This is just the basic, simple flavor. So there's no complexity to it. It's like, I hate when people use that, like they trash on the flavor of vanilla like it's useless. It's like, no, it's the most versatile flavor you can have of ice cream or what have you. It can be paired with anything, and this episode kind of allows that to happen, where we get little bits of a western, little bits of sort of, like you said, cyberpunk, like you get your space bits, so you get a little bit of all of those flavors mixed in here, and it does expand a lot more in some other episodes. But I like just the simplicity of the nature of the episode, and just setting up the idea of what it would mean to be a bounty hunter at this time. A poor broke bounty hunter at that.
I was to say, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. That's why I said it. Like, I got to catch lots of parts of it with all the bells and whistles. So to like pare all that back, it almost felt like something was missing. And like I said, it does a really good job of that. And I've come around to it. Like when I say I used to not like this episode, it was probably, 10 years ago I used to not like this episode, kind of thing. Because it's just, yeah, it is not, they're not like having a ton of fun. It's not like like, things aren't bad per se. But it is certainly making a point to plant the flag to be like, you're going to feel the day in and day out. You may not be there every day with them, but you'll feel it. You'll be like, yeah, I get it. I get the no beef with bell pepper and beef. I understand it. I totally get it. And some things that do crop up, I like, because because it doesn't try to lead you by the nose and like bog you down with all of this information it does, like you say, keeps it simple and not to a detriment. It's like, hey, just focus on this, and we'll play in some of these other episodes. We'll get really silly. We'll go off the track, just straight to Stupidsville on some of these episodes. But before we get there, let's kind of drop some things here. Like, you get the bloody eye drug. It gets mentioned. That kind of peppers throughout some of the episodes here and there. The Sitting Bull, he gets, he's in a couple episodes as well. And the just Oh, what am I thinking there? The just the reference, yeah, you say it's like a Western. They also refer to bounty hunters as cowboys and stuff. And it's a nice amalgamation of all these different sort of styles, but also a reflection of just that and I think you see it now. Like I said, like I wish I could remember what that. I think it's Verschmitz or something. I don't remember. Basically, it's like world weariness. You see that now as much as in the show, of just sort of this. It's almost like a Pinto that's got punched in the gut trying to go up a hill. It's like it might get there, but it's really struggling to do it, and it's kind of the overall vibe you get. It's like there's a bubbling undercurrent that they might be able to get somewhere, but it's gonna be a struggle.
Right. It's not an easy world to live in. It's not this glamorous job to be a bounty hunter.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder, especially because you don't really get too much of a detail or too many details about either one. You're kind of like, why are these two doing what they're doing? What led you to this point?
Yeah, and I like as well that they add a bit of that carefree lifestyle. Seems to be implied early on at this point of the reason they would do this work, if you want to call it work, is that carefree lifestyle and not really have to be tethered to anything. And we get a lot of information later on as to why they, obviously, that this first one, it just seems to be that adventurous side, the adventure and the excitement of capturing somebody for a bounty.
Yeah, and that is also, I think, a nice thing that it highlights is that a lot of times when you've got like an adventure story or something, there's always, it's peaked by all these random exciting things going on, but there's a lot of the boring stuff gets cut out of the story because it's like, well, this is boring. And it's like, well, it's not that necessarily boring, but it's like, we're going to put these in here because you need to know that, yeah, you may have it's kind of similar to like people who like to do art and stuff. I feel like I'm kind of, unfortunately, in this trajectory of lifestyle to some degree. Like I kind of step foot in, foot out every now and again where it's like, maybe not necessarily Arrested Development or I'm concerned or stuck in the past or something, but just kind of, hey man, everything's all good. Yeah.
Fair enough. Some of the other things I really enjoy about this episode is that we get a big swerve in the music department. So obviously the title being Asteroid Blues, and then we get a very bluegrass or bluesy type score for pretty much the whole episode. And that kind of does play out through the next every episode. I'm pretty sure every episode has some level of like a jazz or blues track within it, even though each episode does sort of identify with a different type of movie genre and so forth. But so I don't know if it's so much a swerve, but it kind of leads you into this idea, okay, this is likely what the music might be throughout the entire series. And there are undercurrents and bits for sure, but it does take massive swerves in the upcoming episodes.
Well, yeah, I mean, this episode, as opposed to most of the episodes, has a short cold open, and then which is a memory sequence that plays in snippets throughout the series here and there. I do like, and it's something that I never really paid attention to. I'm also watching this for the first time on the Blu-ray version Because I've got like I have my old original DVD copies still of when it was, oh, here's 3 episodes of DVD, jerk. Oh wait, that's $40. Thanks.
Oh,
Thanks for the monies.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Uh,
What do you get on the Blu-ray? Is it just 3 discs or something?
It's 3 discs, but like the first disc doesn't really have much in the way of extras. There's like a commentary on like 2 episodes or something.
Okay.
I think for one's with Watanabe, and I think with Kawamoto, the character designer. I could be wrong. It's pretty sparse on that first disc, but at least watching it this time, and I don't know if it's because it's on the Blu-ray, so it's all nice and shiny, or if I've just somehow have started to be a little bit more observant on this sort of thing. But in the rain almost makes it look like grainy film. In a way, which is kind of a cool effect, or if it's just me just kind of putting that impression upon it.
No, I could see that. And then the reason I could see that is, as we go through this, as I already implied earlier, we know that there are a lot of influences from other film genres. Mm-hmm. So that would not be surprising to be mimicking film noir.
Right. So, yeah, so it's neat. And then, of course, the opening bang. I mean, what can you say about that? I don't know what else to really say about Bang other than I really like the song. Unless you don't like the song. Are you going to tell me you don't like the song?
Are you talking when the credits roll?
Yeah, the opening theme.
Oh, Tank?
Tank. Why did I say Bang?
Oh, that's why I was pausing and hesitating. Sorry. I was just like, am I missing something?
I'll just stick to drinking stuff. You talk the rest of stuff.
Yes, the song Tank is unbelievable.
There we go. Yes. Thank you. Bang. Where am my brain at?
It's funny though, your brain gets integrated to, this is the shorter version of it, because I've listened to the extended version, which is obviously a lot longer. And it's funny when you're waiting for those specific beats to kick in, because it's obviously been edited for the opening.
Right.
But the full version is actually really cool too. But that trumpet the saxophone. Wait, is it trumpet or saxophone?
It's not a saxophone.
It's a trumpet at
the end. Wait, at the end?
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah, that's a trumpet.
It's a trumpet, yeah. It's just like such a cool way to wrap up the song and how it just shuts down. And it's funny, generally I do skip, like depending, especially for these rewatchings that we're doing. I watched it on the very first episode, but then for the subsequent episodes, I am skipping through just to save a little bit of that minute of my time, because I'm just finding I don't have a lot of time to watch. But you're still you feel like you're cheating a little bit by not watching that.
Even with like shows that don't have the same sort of panache, I don't like that same sort of like character. Like even with Deadwood ending themes, they always like to choose different kind of folky music and stuff a lot of times. But the opening theme, I'll sit there. I do it with every show that I watch, and I'll sit through. I feel like you said, I'm cheating if I skip those things. I could watch 10 episodes of Deep Space Nine or Next Generation or the original series or something. It's like I'm watching this. The opening it's got, otherwise it doesn't count that I watched it.
Well, the new Castlevania show, the intro is 5 seconds or something. It is seriously like, or 10 seconds maybe. It just basically plays this really heavy music for 10 seconds, just shows a few credits really quick, like says Castlevania, and it's right into the show. So I don't know if that's just a new approach that maybe shows do now. I can't remember if the first episode had a longer sort of intro. I don't recall, but the following seasons did not. So I was like, oh, interesting. So I never felt like I had to skip, because it was just it was basically doing it for me. And credits were always there, though. So. Yeah. Yeah, no, it is a pretty amazing song. It's quite iconic, I assume, for many people. And if you hear that um, anywhere, you probably get flooded with some kind of Cowboy Bebop memories.
Yeah, I could see that. I always, I had a few different CDs of the soundtrack, like the first one and then Vitaminless, which kind of overshadowed each other in certain songs. But I remember making sure to get like as best as I can non-skipping CD player when I was running cross country, so I could listen to bebop while practicing for cross country and stuff like that. The best of my ability, which was always nice. But yeah, and just music in this series. I know there's been some accusations at certain points tossed Yoko Kanno's way, but not gonna really discuss those. Like, I don't know the full details of it, and yeah, I'm not just gonna go on. That's all you're gonna hear from me on that.
I just found out about some stuff the other day. Like, I don't know, and I don't know the whole detail, but it seems to be the whole music industry has this sort of tie to reusing, recycling music, or here are those arguments. There's only 4 chords anyways, or what have you, right? So, unfortunately, it seems though if you are showing your respect or being influenced by something, it seems that there's a lot of accusations of just theft now, unfortunately. I don't know the whole deal, whether that's true or not, but the music, from what I know in this series, is quite enjoyable.
Right. Yeah. So, that's we. As I say, is there anything in particular about, other than like just the setup of the show or this episode and whatnot? Is there anything that really sticks out to you? Be like, yes, this is like the best part of this episode, or what have you.
I think when Spike and Asimov finally fight, it's pretty neat to see that fighting style that Spike has. I believe he's Jeet Kune Do. Is that right? So
yeah,
it's just kind of cool to see that fight, and then you get some of the POV of Asimov as well when he's high on the bloody eye, which is pretty cool. But I would say probably that fight sequence right there, where you finally get to see some action that's quite heavy and not just gunplay. That would probably be the one for me. But I will say the standout. Actually, no. Like, I would say that's probably most people's standout. I think for me, it's that opening scene of Spike just training, Jet poking his head out and just saying, to eat the meal, and then them just recycling that at the end, just coming full circle within the first episode. That's probably the moment for me.
See, I don't mind that training thing, but it always really bothered me at the end, where it's being repeated, because it feels like Spike really wouldn't get too much training out of lower gravity. See Jet just kind of float on by, floats a cigarette over to him. I don't know if you're really getting the best bang for your buck there, Spike, my boy, but don't have to do the 100G DBZ training, but I don't know about that one. I mean, it is nice to see that. And yeah, the actual fight is in a very traditional, I'd say, style, especially when it comes to like Japanese story or film, where it's like this slowly ratcheting up, don't, and then it kind of builds up, and then there's all of a sudden that quick break, and then the action. And it's not like the end of it either, which is kind of nice. There's a bit more that really puts a crown on this to be like, this is not going to be as simple as, oh, you beat the bad guy, you got him, kind of thing. It sort of puts it to you a bit. Like, ugh, oof. Like, especially when it comes to Spike seeing what unfolds. I think there's got to be a moment of, oh, that could have, oh, I've made choices. Which is because, that's something I really like, and I appreciate about this show is that, Spike's 27, so he's still kind of got that he's still got that hot-headed attitude that creeps out every now and again. But I always loved Jet. Jet is like such a wonderful pillar for everything else to just or everyone else to just spin off of, and he is such a I identify as Jet Black is what I'm saying. Like he's just kind of like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, just kind of moving about here, and it is nice that in this episode that it keeps that whatever the dichotomy between the two sort of thing. There's this kind of playfulness with him. Where he's like, yeah, I'm done with this. Or like when he sees him at the gas station, he's like, oh, he caught you, he popped you. He's almost kind of teasing him and everything. And then, there's a nice little camaraderie that's shown between the two, even though they are very distinctively different people. Yeah, I don't like that. I love the three old men gag.
Who come up several times.
They'd come up several times. I love those three. And I just love the line of like, we what was the one about like, we planted those seeds like no tomorrow, whatever. And it was like, oh, you were planting seeds of a different kind.
Yeah, everywhere else or whatever.
Yeah.
And that one guy's always talking as if he's some sort of big shot compared to the other two. He's like, you were just doing the same thing we were doing.
Right. My buddies and I.
Yeah.
We're the buddies you're talking about.
They're sort of your comedic side characters that just pop up. And they usually pop up maybe 15 seconds when they do show up here and there.
Right. And it's nice that they pop up throughout the sizable portion of the series and stuff. It's, yeah, yeah. They are, it's nice that they're in this, and they also just kind of pop up a couple times, so it's like, maybe you might see him again, maybe, wink, nod. So, yeah. Is there anything that you might not like about the episode?
On the whole, no. This episode I find is pretty enjoyable. I mean, there's a little bit of long-winded stuff with Asimov, and I kind of wish that Asimov didn't die so quickly, just because I think there could have been a bit more exploration going on with that character. But the way they wrap it up in such a quick fashion, it does make sense. Like, that this guy just kind of lives on the edge and has pushed himself far beyond his limit. And put both him and his partner at risk. But that's maybe the one thing, is that he seemed like he could have been an interesting character had he been able to pop up again, or at least his partner's character, one or the other.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe just the detriment for Bebop in general, because outside of some very tertiary characters, those like villains of the week, monsters of the week kind of thing, it's hard for a lot of them to do repeat performances. Which I think also kind of lends into that malaise, that drifting malaise that the crew of the Bebop find themselves in. So, Myself, I'm trying to think of what would probably be like the stuff that I don't like. I used to just not like the episode just because of how it just felt so empty in a lot of ways compared to just a lot of the other episodes. But as it is, as just kind of distilling it by itself sort of thing, it's not that it's empty. It's just that's just kind of, I think that was almost a conscientious choice to do, right? I myself am not too keen on Asimov, I guess. But you get it. He's a, he's a part of a syndicate and made off with a lot of very, very pricey drugs. It's gonna put you in a very, very, paranoid state.
Yes. And then when you're doing those drugs on top of that.
It was, yeah, just compounding it there. That, I will say this, I remember the last time I watched through the series, which I do it every time that I move. So I watched this, like about, I watched it when I moved here, so within the last year. It's just something I do. I don't know, I've gotten to the habit of, I will watch all of Bebop whenever I move. Frag. The good old 90s referencing for when things are fragged. And I'm assuming it's the way to get around, censorship or something. But, he's saying, I think Jet used it once. It's a real mind frag when referring to the drug. And then, Asimov is berating his partner when she gets shot at and it starts spilling out the drug and stuff. And it's like, if we lose these, we're fragged.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, I just, not that I dislike it. It's just the 90s. I didn't ever think I'd ever miss you, but here we are. But I think that's really what I've got there. We don't have to like revisit it for every episode and whatnot, but what do you feel about like the little snippet at the end where it's this little goofy playfulness that goes on on the next episode?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't really think about it. I probably indifferent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think it's really necessary for this franchise for the most part because so many of these episodes are just one shots.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really feel necessary to have to include sort of a setup for what's to follow. Something like Dragon Ball was pretty notorious for that. They would show a couple of quick snippets of what's coming in the next episode. And a lot of cartoons did if they were not like singular episodic type shows. They would kind of hint that what's coming up on the next week or the next episode. But I don't think it's really necessary for Cowboy Bebop. So, but I'm fairly indifferent.
For myself, it's at least a cheeky, it almost is like behind the curtain kind of thing, just because they're having fun with it and it's just something goofy. It doesn't really subtract or add anything. It's just kind of like, they're just having fun with it. The end. So, I guess with that, do you want to put a... I guess we're going to go with the bounty. Do you want to put a bounty on this?
We're going to put a bounty on this.
We're going to put a bounty on.
I just had one thing. I'm trying to manage to get a couple of quick quote clips. Like, I'm trying to pick out maybe my favorite quote from each episode.
Okay.
I know I didn't run this by you earlier, so don't feel like you have to come up with something.
Well, obviously you were planting seeds of a different kind. That's my.
Mine was something you referenced earlier when Jet walks up and he stands over Spike and having a little nap, huh? And then he's having a sweet dream and he's like, "That's heartwarming." It's just the tone of voice he has. That's
great
heartwarming.
delivery. That's heartwarming.
They both have very. That's just funny. Like you said, it highlights their sort of personality quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The carefreeness of Spike, who, the carefree could be too hot-headed or too relaxed, and then Jet somewhere in between the middle of just being very sarcastic but a realist at the same point. So, yeah, no, I just thought that was kind of funny.
I like the when Jet inspects the bar after Asimov's wrecked it, he hits the dude with the what's the drink that he has?
Bourbon or whiskey.
It's something like Presidente. He breaks it on the one, he grabs the other one, he's like, "Tell me more." I always like the delivery of that one.
Doesn't he say something before that too? Like, "I'll drink to that," or "I'll take a swig of that."
Yeah, it's like, Presidente, I'll have some on the house.
Something like that.
So, yeah.
As for bounty, though?
Yeah, bounty. What would you put the bounty at on this?
I'm going to put a bounty of... I'm going to raise the Asimov bounty, and I'm going to give it 3 million wulongs, since his bounty was 2.5 million.
Oh, okay. All right. I will, I got a little bit less than you on this one. I myself will stick it appropriately with the bounty that Asimov was given there. I can go with 2.5 mil.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's wulongs. Easy come, easy go.
As we'll find in episode 3.
Right. So, alright. But, yeah, any last words on?
I'm ready to wrap it up.
Alright, let's wrap it up. So, yeah. Thanks for listening. It was the first episode of the Asteroid Blues, as they were, for Cowboy Bebop. For Cowboy Bebop, if I could learn ever to talk in this mortal coil of mine, never. I'll never learn. Oh well. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for listening. If you got any sort of comments and stuff, please put them down below. Curious to know how you feel about the first outing. Perhaps, I would imagine that, it's probably, as time has gone on, more into line of, the first episode is a lot of people's, experience with the show as we've drifted further and further away from 98, 99. And that, more people like me that saw it back in the early, I want to call them the knots, but it's the aughts, the early aughts. They, were a little bit more, I caught like episode 18, or I caught first one episode 14, or episode 7 as their first one. So, I don't know, it was the first outing for the wonderful Cowboy Bebop. Please let us know. And until then, see you, Space Cowboy.